There are things that go bump in the night. Unfortunately, this is not the movie I wanted to bump back. Hellboy 2019, directed by Neil Marshall, the man that directed The Descent, starring David Harbour as our titular character, Hellboy, not Ron Perlman. You got Sasha Lane as Alice, replacing the love interest, which is Selma Blair's character, only she's not pyrokinetic, she's a psychic. Mila Jovovich plays Nimue, the Blood Queen, who's the villain in the movie. Ian McShane plays Professor Broom, who was William Hurt's character in the original movie, Hellboy's dad. Brian Gleason plays Merlin. Daniel Day Kim Ben Damien, who's a guy that can transform into a cat man, some type of a weird cat, I guess. Then you have Thomas Hayden Church in the movie, playing Lobster Johnson, a character that we wanted Bruce Campbell to play in the third Hellboy movie. Douglas Stault plays this pig monster. And Troy James plays this character called Baba Yaga. That's pretty much the cast. This movie is a reboot of the Hellboy franchise, not Hellboy 3, which I know a lot of people wanted. But unfortunately, the reason why we didn't get Hellboy 3 is because Universal released Hellboy 2, Hellboy the Golden Army, around the same time that The Dark Knight came out. It was like a week before The Dark Knight came out. Because that movie was so popular, Hellboy Golden Army underperformed and pretty much ended the franchise. And there was no way this movie was going to compete against The Dark Knight. And so the next movie we got was a reboot. And here I was thinking the reason why we never got a third Hellboy is because Guillermo del Toro was kicking the can the whole time. I was actually blaming him instead of Universal, because he kept on doing other movies after Hellboy 2. He did Pacific Rim, he did Shape of Water, and he did all those little horror movies that he does, like Crimson Peak. And I'm wondering, when are we going to get Hellboy 3? Or when are we going to get Hellboy 3? And I didn't realize the reason why we never got Hellboy 3 is because Universal screwed up and put Hellboy 2 at the wrong date, and that's why it underperformed. Sometimes this is how it goes. And we ended up getting a reboot because they didn't want to wait any longer, and here we are. Although the next best thing to do would be to watch the animated films Sword and Irons, and there was one other animated film, which are pretty good films, but they're not the Hellboy story that we wanted, which at the end of the second one we find out that Hellboy is going to be a father, and eventually we would have seen the apocalypse the Hellboy was going to create and everything, but we get the movie that we get. So this movie, he ends up going against a villain called Nimue, the Blood Queen. Basically, he's the only one that can stop him. Alice, who is a psychic that can communicate with the dead. And let's talk about this. Now, I have to say, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was hoping that this was going to be a good movie. Unfortunately, this movie is very disappointing. The reviews weren't very good for it, and I have to say it's not good. It's not terrible, but it's not what I wanted it to be. If you're going to do a reboot, I understand you got to do something different, but this movie was such a mess. A lot of the problems with this movie is that it really felt like they were forcing things to go in a certain direction, and you just can't force a story like this. You have to just do something different, just let it flow, and it just didn't flow the way I wanted it to go. This movie actually tried to do some of the things that Hellboy 3 probably would have given us. It gave us one of the characters, Lobster Johnson, which is the character we wanted to see being played by Bruce Campbell, but unfortunately we get Thomas Hayden Church, and yeah, he's great seeing this character in there, but he doesn't really feel as great as he could have been, and you do get to see the apocalypse, but it feels too soon because this is an origin story. A lot of the stuff in this movie just feels like it's there with no purpose. This movie is R-rated, but there's no purpose to that R rating being there. It's like when they put the R rating in a movie, but you don't totally utilize it. It's just there for the sake of being there, and you're just putting F-bombs and doing gross stuff just for the sake of having the R rating, but it doesn't have any purpose to it. So that's one of the problems with this movie. The special effects in this movie are not good. The CG is very bad and very fake. David Harbour, though, is probably the best thing about this movie. He does the best he can with what he's given, but a lot of the other performances do feel pretty wooden, from Sasha Lane, and Mila Jovovich is such a terrible villain. She's not that good of an actress to begin with, and I kind of wish they picked a different actress to play the villain. I really don't like this villain at all. Ian McShane is just basically being Ian McShane. The cat demon guy is a pretty cool character, but it's not Abe Sapien, unfortunately. Spoiler, Abe Sapien does show up in the movie, not until the very end. It's kind of like a reference, a sequel bait. Yeah, we get 2 after credits scenes. Really? You're doing that like they do with regular comic book movies? You're doing the after credits stingers? So I'm going to give this movie a D, as in don't see it. They should have just given us Hellboy 3. So basically this movie's just not good. It's not a terrible movie, but it's not worth seeing. Don't bother seeing it.